Right, hi to everyone coming in. We'll give it a few minutes before we do get started. I want to give you a bit of time to get yourselves comfortable. We've got the next hour, and this is hopefully going to be one of the more exciting talks of the week, we think, because it's one of those rare chances where you get to actually speak to current students. We've always used our students for a range of things like open days and like events like this, because we recognise how valuable it is to hear from current students. So make the most of this session. There will be a chance for a Q&A at the end. So if you do have any questions about life as a student or particular courses as well, today's a really good chance to do that and to ask away. So we are joined by four of our students who I'm going to get to introduce themselves in just a few moments. Just I'll give you a bit more time to get in and settle in as well and get comfortable. But like I said, do think of any questions throughout the talk. If you want to ask about specific courses, then some of the guys here today may be studying those, where you can find out more about that. But it's also, just like I said, a really rare chance to speak to students, especially at the moment, given restrictions in being able to visit universities. It's very difficult to be able to visit universities and to speak to students. So hopefully you'll be able to make the most of today and ask as many questions as you can. What I'll do now, just because we are a couple of minutes in, I'll ask our students to introduce themselves and let us know what course they're doing. And then we're going to cover maybe about 25 minutes to half an hour of a talk about student life and what you can expect from student life at Cardiff. And then, like I said, towards the end and towards the second half of the talk, we are going to hopefully be able to answer any questions you might have as well. So, Ollie, can I get you to introduce yourself first, please?
Sure. Hi guys, my name is Oliver. I am in my final year of medicine and also integrated in medical education after my third year. So I've done a few things.
Thanks, Ollie. Next on my screen, I've got Phoebe.
Hi everyone, I'm Phoebe and I'm doing the Cancer Biology and Therapeutics Masters.
Lovely. Hannah, you're next on my screen.
Hi, my name's Hannah and I'm studying chemistry. I'm doing M-Chem, so I'm on my fourth year and final year.
Thank you. And then last but not least, we've got Morgan.
Hi guys, my name is Morgan. I'm a second year medical engineering student and I also did the foundation year for engineering.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. So we've got a good range of students here studying different subjects, as you heard. Again, if any of those are studying a course that you are having interest in or you'd like to find out a bit more about, then you can ask more questions towards the end. But also think of any general questions about student life. You could ask what it's like to be a student at the moment. Of course, there's things in the news about what it's like to be a student, but today's your chance to find out from people who actually are studying at university. So do think of any questions. I'm now going to politely ask the guys to go away and just hide their cameras, just so we can get started with the talk. But the way that we're going to work it is each of our current students are going to cover a different topic today. So you do get to hear from all of them before we get to the Q&A. So I'll get started with the presentation. Like I've said a few times, I can't stress enough how rare it is to have this opportunity to speak to students, especially in the current climate. So do make the most of the opportunity today. Do ask as many questions as you can. There's no such thing as a stupid question when it comes to student life. You'd be surprised at how many fellow students might be thinking the same thing. So it's always good to ask as many questions as you can, just to find out hopefully as much as you possibly can today. But like I said, we've got the next hour, so it's a good chance to be able to find out more about being a student at Cardiff University. So I'll just wait for my screen to load. Here we go. So these are the sort of things you're going to hear about today. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I know that I'm not the person you want to hear from today, but university life covers a range of topics. So of course, there's the studying aspect of it. You are at university to learn and to get a degree from that, and hopefully get a career from that as well. So the academic side of it is obviously a big aspect of university life, but there's so much more around that makes university what it is. So the independence you feel from, in most cases, moving away for the first time, moving to a new city, moving into a new halls of residence, and again, I would imagine moving out and living by yourself for the first time as well. Making new friends in a new city as well. You know, the people you meet at university really make your experience as well. I went many years ago now, but I met people on the first day of my course who I'm still very, very close to this day. So you do make friends for life. freedom again from studying what you want and spending your day and your spare time how you want as well. There's a range of academic and social opportunities which you're going to hear about today from our students, and also learning new things academically but also personally, trying out new sports, for example, or joining societies, or a whole host of different things that are available to you. The sort of skills that you're looking for from university skills, self-motivation. One of the things about university that I was really excited about was the fact that lectures aren't compulsory. So I was, being the student I was in school, I remember thinking, oh, well, let's just not go to any then, let's just have a good time. But the one thing I'd say, and the one thing I know that the guys would back me up with is when you choose a course you have a genuine passion for, you really can't wait for the lectures. You really are excited by going to the lectures and finding out more. So choosing the subject you've got a genuine passion for gives you that chance to really kind of immerse yourself in that topic and want to learn more. Also maybe getting some work opportunities as well. You know, the guys today all have done some work for the university, and I'm sure they'd say it's taught them valuable skills, but also it's good for a bit more money as well. Organizational skills, ability to meet deadlines, prioritizing workload, finding resources, and also really important one which you'll hear about today is balancing what you've got academically and also your social life as well. University really is all about finding that balance of the work side of it and also your social life. And people who can do that well, people who balance that nicely, end up having the best time of their life at university. And also communication, from group discussions, presentations, written communication with essays and notes as well, and also referencing. But those things do come to you when you move to university. And of course, there's many more sort of skills that you're gonna learn and you're gonna develop when you get to university. But you know, if you guys are already showing these sort of skills now in school or college, you're going to find university quite an easy step up. It's not going to be too much of a big step up, really. I'm now going to invite Ollie to tell us a bit more about the academic life at university. So again, if you think of any questions, do please ask them towards the end of the talk.
Fab, thanks, Iwan. So yeah, first, just to kind of jump off what Iwan was saying with the fact that uni isn't a massive jump, which is quite nice, and especially towards the beginning when you first start, especially with the take the bottom, there's a bit of an adjustment period. For example, with medicine, when I started, we had about, I think it was 2-3 months where everyone, because we all did different kind of syllabuses, we were all from the UK and around the world, they basically spent, you know, a few months just making sure that all of us kind of knew exactly the same thing and kind of building on that. So that was really nice. And I think in my head, I thought that it was going to be the kind of the craziest jump in the world, but they really kind of take things step by step. So, you know, by the time I've reached my, 6th year now, you know, everything has been quite gentle, which has been really appreciated. I think another thing that's been really interesting with uni is that it's like loads of different types of work as well. So it's not just kind of sitting in a lecture or doing, you know, a seminar or something like that. It's so different from sixth form in high school. So we got to do different like practical sessions, and you'll do like speaking exams and XYZ. There's just, you know, academically, it's so much more and so much more exciting than kind of just sixth form. Another thing I think, which is what I liked as well, is that it is really in depth. You get to know a subject really, really well. I found that, you know, in high school, you study for GCSEs, 10, 11 subjects, and you're just kind of scraping the surface. And even in A levels, you know, you're still doing 3 or 4 quite a lot. So by going to university, if you do have a passion for one or maybe 2 subjects, this is the kind of place where you can really kind of hone in on that and learn tons about it. And as well with the academic life, you know, you're not just on your own. There's tons of different people that are there to support you. You have your own personal tutor, which I think we'll kind of touch a bit on later on, but they're there for the whole time you're at university. So I've had someone who's been there for me for 6 years that I know really, really, really well now, is writing a reference for my job. But you also have different lectures and course mates as well. But yeah, thank you. Next slide. So, and what I touched on earlier about how there's loads of different types of learning as well at university. So there's tons of different kind of ways of learning built into all the different university courses. So the first one to kind of touch upon is lectures, and that's something that everyone's going to be getting at the moment. So these kind of typically lectures are for is the biggest kind of group of people you have. So that's kind of, you know, usually the whole course in a seminar room, or at the moment on Zoom. And usually what's happened is that you'll have a lecturer kind of going through a presentation, and you're just kind of, you're typing your notes. And a lot of the time it's kind of your lectures that form the kind of core pillars of your knowledge. And you can kind of read around those to get your extra bits of knowledge, but kind of lectures kind of form the main bit of that. And building on top of that are your seminars. So these are kind of much smaller group discussions. So typically maybe 10, 15 people and a kind of a lecturer or kind of someone to lead the seminar. And these are where you get a lot more discussions. So they'll kind of say, you know, they'll base it on a few lectures or kind of bits of reading that everyone will do. And it's where you can kind of discuss things in loads of detail and kind of, you know, really kind of flesh out and kind of give opinions on things, which I think is quite nice. I think what I really enjoyed as well is my seminars in first and second year it was a way of kind of discussing if you didn't understand anything. So obviously different people will really find different bits of the course quite interesting. And I remember there were certain parts of kind of maybe anatomy or cardiology or whatever it was that I didn't understand, but another student loved, and they were able to kind of explain it all to me. So seminars can be really interesting. You also get field work and practicals. So obviously this will be dependent on what course you're studying or where you are, but these will be kind of, you know, be off campus and a lot more kind of practical experiences. So it can be studying abroad. I've got friends that went to Cardiff who she did geography, and she went to Tanzania for her time abroad. I know friends that went to Australia. For example, mine was in medicine. We had to, in our third year, we went to kind of a place in mid Wales where we got to practice like road traffic accidents and what to do in emergency situations. So they're kind of a lot more practically based. And finally, independent study. So this is something that Iwan kind of mentioned earlier, but regardless of what you're studying, there will always be independent study, and they'll let you kind of, they'll give you an area of stuff to work on and different recommended readings and things like that. But this is something that you do as much or as little depending on how much you feel you need to and want to. So we're just going to watch a quick video just highlighting some global opportunities now. So I think, first to note about global opportunities is that they're kind of sometimes some of the highlights on the course and are absolutely amazing. So sometimes with some courses, you will get kind of global opportunities kind of built in. So for example, with my degree in medicine, we have 8 weeks in our final year where it's called our elective, and we basically can organize a kind of a medical placement anywhere in the world. And they'll support us with that, and we basically kind of go abroad for 8 weeks, learning different aspects of medicine or kind of practicing in really kind of amazing and unusual places. But even if it's not built into your course, there's still ways to access kind of global opportunities. So we do have a kind of global opportunities center where you can kind of get in contact with them. And, it's either for kind of volunteering during your summer holidays or anything like that. If you want to go abroad as part of your kind of studies at university, Cardiff will help you do that. I had a friend who studied, I can't remember now, but they basically during their summer holidays managed to volunteer in India for, I think, 2 months. and they helped, Cardiff University helped them kind of with buying their flights and finding accommodation and organising the volunteer placement. So there's loads of different things that you can do. We also have European exchanges, for example, Erasmus. So this is where it varies with different degrees, but with medicine in our 4th year, you can do an 8-week placement in different areas in the EU, for example, Italy, Spain, France, things like that. And that will help you kind of build on any language skills you have, or kind of help practice some new ones. But just to highlight that kind of even with COVID at the moment, obviously it's the word of the day, isn't it? But even with that, the university is still kind of allowing us to do it, and they're helping us and ensuring that our placements are safe. So they're still happening, which is quite nice and reassuring. And just the last point to make is we have a scheme called Languages for All the University, which is a really amazing way of either learning a new language or building on any kind of existing languages skills that you have. So it's kind of this free language course you can go on. That's a few hours on an evening each week for about 10 weeks. And it is in tons of different languages. We've got European ones like Italian, French, Spanish, Portuguese. We've also got kind of outside of European language, Russian. We've got Mandarin, Japanese, tons of different ones. And they're all from beginners to advanced, so you can kind of pick up new ones or practice existing skills. And that could be quite a nice opportunity alongside any kind of European exchanges or international exchanges to kind of work with those language skills. But yeah, for example, in my 1st year, I learned French because I did it as an A-level. So I just kind of built those skills. And I also, in my 3rd year, learned some Welsh as well for when I was on placement speaking to patients. So I would really, really recommend it. But yeah, thank you.
Sorry. So the facilities and support in Cardiff Uni. So we have 14 libraries, lots of them this science, social science one will open 24 hours a day, and they all differ in their sort of opening times. We also have a student support centre, which are there to give you advice or any guidance or counselling on academic needs. There's a financial department there who are there to help with. There's like an emergency fund if you needed it. There's also a disability service, so they can help you with getting any equipment that you needed. And then there's also some peer support and mentoring. So in my 1st and 2nd year, I had one of the 4th years in chemistry who mentored us every Wednesday afternoon with our sort of chemistry work. You also have a personal tutor who you can talk to about any sort of issues that you have with any challenges you face in your course. And also we have a multi-faith chaplaincy at the university. Then, so living away from home. So there's a range of university residences. I lived in Senghenydd in my 1st year, and so it's communal living there. I think there's a range of different ones that you can have your own sort of en-suites, or you share with some other people. And there's also the residence life scheme. So there's lots of people are in the same sort of situation, that they're living away from home. It's a nice, I think, especially this year with COVID, it's a nice sort of way to get to know people really quickly. In my 1st year, I think I had another 5 flatmates, and we're still really good friends now. Then just the next slide. So the student budget, so you don't have to pay anything up front. You can have, there's different scholarships and bursaries. I think in Cardiff, if you have 3 A's, in your A levels, you can have a scholarship of £3,000 over the of your degree, and then you can manage your own finances. Lots of students take out student finance, and then I find that it's nice to top it up with some part-time employment, like what we're doing at the moment. You can become a student ambassador. There's lots of things like down at the Millennium Stadium, like rugby games that you can work on. Student discounts are all very good at the shops, so you can have them in restaurants or in different shops. And then there's also established support networks there for us at university. So this is the basket challenge. So I don't know if you'd like to guess what the difference is between the two baskets of shopping. Check the chat. So I think this one, I actually was quite surprised with this one. It's actually higher than I thought it would be. So I think you can click. So I think it's the £9.33. Someone sent the 10. Yeah, so that was close. Yeah, so just a bit lower. So if you did this every week of your term, you'd actually save £345.21, which would be really useful whilst you're at university. I think every penny counts. And then this one, so a cup of takeaway filter coffee costs £2.40. If you bought one cup every weekday during your term time, how much do you think this would cost you? If you'd like to put any answers in the chat, Pat. Any guesses? 360? Let's see what it is. It's lots higher, 444. So I definitely need to probably stop drinking as much coffee from Costa. But yeah. And then so settling in. So I think this year was quite different to what you usually have. So usually you have a freshers week where there's like a big freshers fair, and you can go there and you can join as many sort of socials as you'd like. And it's super easy to make friends. You have time to explore your new campus and the city. And then it's a good idea to register with the local GP just in case you need anything throughout your time at uni. And then there's also clubs and societies you can join, and you can give it a go. So I think you can just have like a session before you sort of have a membership with that club and society. But yeah, that's all from me.
Can we have the next slide, please? So in terms of clubs and societies at Cardiff, we're really lucky to have a massive variety of different things that you can join. I always think that there really is something for everyone, and I've really enjoyed trying something new. It's quite a good time to try something new at university, actually. So this picture here just shows how many different clubs and societies there are. So there's things like musical theatre in Disney, to Grey's Anatomy, to wine and cheese. There's everything you could want and more. And I think it's a really good way of making new friends, especially at the moment. because in-person things are limited. But I know a number of clubs and societies are still running socials on Zoom. Some training can still go ahead, and some meetups can still go ahead depending on what the society is. And yeah, it's just a really fantastic way to get involved and to be more part of the university experience. Can we have the next slide, please? And yeah, these are some of the sports we have as well. Cardiff Uni has amazing sports facilities and a massive array of sports you can join as well. In my first year, I did bioscience netball, so that helped me meet lots of different people who were on my course. That one was a bit more relaxed and informal, and the socials were amazing. And then in second year onwards, I joined the rowing club, and that was amazing, being part of a slightly more competitive sport and learning something new as well. Can we have the next slide? Thank you. So yeah, I think the main point is that the sport at university is available for all abilities. Like I said, I'd never coxed a boat before, so that was my first time in second year, and I loved it and I learned really quickly. There's also tons of amazing sports facilities at Taliban, which is one of the residences. There's an amazing gym, there's lots of different AstroTurf, lots of sports facilities everywhere. It's also worth talking about the Bucks League, which is amazing. I think most of the big sports like netball, football, rugby would compete in the Bucks League, and it's competitive against different universities. So in normal circumstances, you'd be able to travel across the UK to compete against the different unis. There's also varsity, which is definitely the highlight of the year, I think. It's against Swansea, and it alternates between being held in Cardiff and Swansea, and it's just fantastic. There's an amazing atmosphere, loads of different sports, and it's a really good chance to watch sports that you wouldn't necessarily want to watch. I think I went to go watch basketball one year, and I'd never watched a basketball match before, and I thought it was amazing. And there's always a really good party after varsity as well. Cardiff also has a half marathon, which I think is every year. I did it last year, and that's an amazing event, and a good opportunity to raise money for a charity that you're involved in, or to run for the university. And there's also live international rugby matches, which are amazing. And that's the only time my dad will ever come and visit me, is when the rugby's on. But there's also other sporting events which happen in Cardiff as well. So yeah, that's all from me.
Sorry, didn't realise I was on mute. We've touched on a little bit on some of the stuff that's in the student union. The main one I'd like to chat about is Job Shop, which is basically where you can get part-time employment while you're in university. And it's absolutely fantastic. It's free to join, there's nothing to it, and there's no commitments if you join. You don't sign up to Job Shop and have to work. And it's everything from one-offs, hey, we need someone to pull some pints in the bar, to full-time employment where you could work, 20, 30 hours a week. So it's extremely flexible, which is amazing because you can work around your schedule. And also, obviously pre-COVID, I think it was twice a week, the student union turns into its own club. And that's always a good laugh and a great night out, and it is a lot of fun. A lot of the other parts of the student union have been touched on already, such as a lot of like the counselling and the financial people. So the SU is amazing for Cardiff Uni. I think it's, in my opinion, it's one of the best in the UK's that they could offer. It's fantastic. Could you have the next slide, please? So this is just a video of the day in the life of an average student. Obviously, this is pre-COVID, so bear that in mind while you watch it. But this is, I would argue, what most students' lives do look like pre-COVID. Can we watch the video? Thank Sorry, I love that video because it really demonstrates what some of the guys have already talked about, such as the different types of lecturing styles and halls of residence and stuff like that. And if you've never been to Cardiff, obviously it's very difficult to travel at the moment. There was a little bit of a sneak peek of some places in the city. I'm biased, I'm from Cardiff, and I think it's such a lovely city, but you know, I am a little bit biased in that point. Could you have the next slide, please? Thank you. So I just want to finish off with some top tips about, you know, being in university, especially in Cardiff. And it mentions finding a good balance. And I think a balance is absolutely key when you come to university, especially with mental health being so discussed and everything. Finding a good balance is key to feeling really happy. And it's important to remember that a balance looks different for everyone. So I had a friend in university who liked to study like 9 until about 6 every single weekday. And then once 6 o'clock came, it didn't matter what happened, he shut down his laptop and walked away. And that was a good balance for him. I'm more of a sporadic learner. I like to do an hour and then off, and then an hour and then off. So remember, just find the balance of that makes you happy. I know budgeting has already been covered, but one thing I would just like to say is that I think for me personally, breaking down how much money I had per day was the key to me budgeting well. So I looked at how much money I had for the entire semester after rent, bills, all those expenses were taken out, and divided it by how many days were in the semester. So I knew roughly what I could spend each day, and that was absolutely amazing for me. Another thing as well is people can feel quite overwhelmed when they come to uni for the first time budgeting. They can think, oh, you know, they've never had money of their own before in this capacity. Just remember not to go without the things you love. If you have something you really love doing, like I, for one, I love takeaway coffees more than I should. So I personally don't drink alcohol. So I save money in certain ways and I spend it on coffee, or I save money by not buying clothes and instead buying coffees. So just make sure you don't go without the things you love whilst you budget. Just find the happy medium, and that will be the best thing to do. And another thing as well is that to-do lists, as it mentions there, will be a lifesaver. I didn't really do one in my first year of uni, and I was constantly scrabbling, trying to find when my assessments were due in. And I started doing one this year, and it's absolutely changed the game. So definitely get a diary, a planner, just something to jot down notes on that aren't necessarily academic, and that will help so much. And the last piece of advice I'd like to give, and probably the most important, is that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay not to be perfect. And it's okay to get things wrong when you come to university. Everyone's getting them wrong. Everyone's making mistakes. So never feel like you've got to do everything right. Chances are, if you make a mistake, it'll be a good memory to laugh about anyway. And I think I'm throwing it back to Iwan now. Oh, sorry, yeah, there's one more slide, sorry, about this quote. It says, if you are coming to university in the near future, make sure you grasp every opportunity that comes your way. And I think that is so important. You will not realize how many opportunities you get in university until you're actually in university, and try and grab every single one that comes your way. 3 years does sound like, oh, it's forever, but it's not. Once you come to university, it goes by so quickly. And just enjoy yourself while you're here. That is the most important. Study hard and enjoy yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Morgan. Thanks to all the guys there. Really helpful information for everything you've said so far. And like I said earlier on, it really is so valuable to be able to hear from current students. So hopefully that's given you a bit more of an idea about student life at university from the academic side, but also the social life. I've got a couple more things to run through before, and then once we've done that, we'll then fire away with some questions you've hopefully got for the guys. So one thing to bear in mind is that there are plenty of other ways you can find out more after today. We've got something on the university's website linked with UniBuddy, and it just gives you that kind of forum to speak to current students. If you were to look on our university web pages and you were to look at different courses, a little box would pop up saying so-and-so, like Henry, for example. If you were looking at music, Henry takes music, have a chat with Henry. So you've got that chance to then have this discussion with different students who are studying different courses. So do make the most of that. We've also got blogs on our webpage. If you go on our webpage and you search Insiders, we've got blogs written by our current students as well. So we're constantly updating those with information about their time at the university and student life as well. So just to finish off, like I said, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for now, because now is the chance for us to hopefully have some questions. Like I've said a few times, it is a really kind of a rare situation to be in, where we do have some of our current students who are here, who've given up some of their own free time to be able to help out with any questions you might have. So the way to do that, if you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see the Q&A icon with the speech bubbles. What you can do is, if you can just chuck some questions in there, and we can then ask the current guys. So if I can get them all to come back on screen, please, so we can see all your lovely faces again. There we go. Thanks again for all your advice so far. We do have a question in already, which I am going to fire to Oliver, and you'll see why. Oliver, for medicine interviews, we were told about some picture observations. Can you explain a bit more about what that might mean?
Sure. So bear in mind, my interviews were, I think, 6 years ago. So this is from what I can remember. So you can have different types of things. You can have like 2 different pictures where you have to compare things, or watch a video and kind of discuss it afterwards. I think it's just, so I think from memory, I think there were, one of the ones you can get is like a picture of 2 hands. One of them is kind of like an elderly person's hand, and the other person's, you know, not elderly, like a younger person's hand, and it's just kind of talking through the differences. I think the main thing is don't get bogged down with the details of what exactly it's going to be, because it literally could be anything. I think as long as you kind of take a step back and you kind of have a good approach to it, you have a bit of a system about how you approach these things and go through it, and just, you know, kind of a good structure. I think that's going to be the best way that you can do it, because I think I had an interview with Kiel, and it was a video about their local recycling centres and the different bins that they had, and then they asked me to discuss it. So it can be anything, as long as you have a fairly good approach to it and try and kind of not miss too much out. Then I think that's the main thing. I think you're on mute.
Sorry, I'm the one who's meant to be hosting this. I can't even work it. I just said, I can't even remember what I said now. It's really useful to have like an academic insight into, especially a course like medicine. To have insight into those interviews is really valuable. Phoebe, I'm going to throw a question to you now. Is there a good amount of green space in Cardiff, like parks and nature, even though it's a fairly urban city?
Yes, I was actually really surprised about how much green space there was, as I was expecting it to be really city based. But yeah, there's Butte Park, which is a personal favourite. We have Rove Park and some other ones kind of dotted about as well. There's also the castle, which is really beautiful and quite a nice place to go and visit, which currently they're doing the Winter Wonderland around that area, which is just gorgeous. There's also Cardiff Bay, which is pretty close by, and that is kind of more like by the sea. So it's a lovely place to go and visit, to kind of get out of the city, but not far away at all. There's also like other places very close by, like I've been to Barry Island, which has a beach, which is really nice. Penarth as well, which is a bit more kind of countryside. So yeah, there's a lot of different places you can go to, which are all very close. Yeah, just a short train journey, really, quite a lot of them.
Thanks, Phoebe. Morgan, I know you're from Cardiff. Have you got anything to add to that at all about the area and the surrounding area as well?
I think, obviously, I am biased. I do think Cardiff's such an amazing city. And one thing I'll say about Cardiff is the people are very friendly as well. Like sometimes when you can go to some big cities, people aren't the friendliest, but I find Cardiff people are an extremely friendly people. And there's always something to do in Cardiff, which is what I love. You have always something on. There's always an event going on. There's always something, which is a lot of fun. And things like varsity, when they are in Cardiff, is absolutely electric, the atmosphere. The Six Nations are amazing to be in Cardiff when the Six Nations are on. So there's just so much always going on. There's always something to do, no matter what you enjoy.
Thanks, Morgan. Hannah, quick question for you. Do you have any advice for students about making new friends when they get to university?
Yeah, so I'd say the best thing to do is just get yourself into as many sort of social clubs, get yourself out there as much as you can, because there's such easy ways to get to know people, different people that have the same interests as you. In my first year, I was a part of quite a few socials. So I think I had the Welsh Society, I had Netball Society going on, and then we also had, as I took Italian, we had like an Italian society, and it's just really good to sort of get you out there, and you can meet as many sort of friends, and then you've got friends for life that are all over the UK and also like worldwide as well.
Thanks, Hannah. Yeah, really valuable. Just linked to something you said there, Hannah. How would someone go about joining societies?
So in the Freshers' Fair, you can sign up to different societies. So I think it's on for at least a week at the start of the year. So you go around the social fair and you just sign up to as many societies, and then most of them have also got some social media pages that you can follow as well.
Thanks, Hannah. Very useful. Oliver, you're proven very popular with medicine, which you won't be surprised about. How much free time do you have on the medicine course? But also, what in particular do you like about the medicine course?
Cool. In terms of free time, I think with every course, you kind of have as much free time as you want. So there's a set that's called kind of like reading hours, or kind of set hours that you get with a course, and that's kind of your face-to-faces and stuff like that. Some courses have more than others. Medicine, I think, in the first few years, so you have 2 years, which are your kind of your preclinical years, where you have a lot of your lectures and seminars and things like that. And then third year onwards is kind of when you're on placement. The first 2 years, you do actually have quite a fair bit of time. You know, sometimes you'll have days off or afternoons off or things like that. And depending on how kind of efficient you are with your time or how much work that you kind of want to do, I found that I had tons of time. I was able to join loads of different societies, loads of different clubs, and I had a really cool social life. And in all honesty, I think it was actually more than I was expecting. I was expecting it to be 9 to 5 every day, and I would never see daylight. But it was, you know, tons more time than I was expecting, which is really good. And even when you get to your placement years, you still get kind of weeks where you have a lot fewer things happening, or on away placements. You know, you can still finish early. Like I'm going to Aberystwyth now, where it's like a beachside town, so I get to have all my weekends at the beach and things like that. So it is, you know, there's a lot more than I was expecting. In terms of what I like about the course, a few things. I think with Wales being the only kind of undergraduate medical school in the UK, what's quite nice is that you have access to the whole of Wales when it comes to your placements. So, you know, I've had my placements in the kind of busiest hospitals in Cardiff, which kind of show loads of different like trauma and A&E and all these things. But I've also had like a little GP in rural mid Wales that, you know, you get to see a lot of different aspects of medicine, which are really great. Other than that, we still do kind of full body dissection, which is something that not many universities do now, which is a really good way of learning anatomy. And finally, I think, you know, it's something called a spiral curriculum, which they talk about online, but everything you cover, they kind of reintroduce at different parts in the course. So stuff now we're learning, they're still linking it back to second year and first year, just to kind of keep reminding you, which is great. Perfect.
Thanks very much, Ollie. I'm sure there'll be some more medicine questions coming back, so I'll give you a break for now. Phoebe, how do people travel in around Cardiff? Is the accommodation quite close? Would they have to get a bus, or can they walk?
So I found that I pretty much walk everywhere. I don't think I've ever taken a bus in Cardiff, actually, not around the city anyway. Yeah, so I think the Taliban residences, which are probably one of the most popular. They're probably about 20-minute walk from main building, and there's lots of other different buildings scattered around there as well, and it's only another sort of 5-10 minutes into the main city centre as well. So yeah, it's really easy to walk everywhere. We also have a Next Bike scheme, which I think is either free or really discounted for students. So it's kind of the same concept as Boris Bikes in London. So I think it links up to an app. You just cycle around, you can drop them off to different stations, and that's a really good way of getting around if you don't want to walk everywhere. There's also really good megabus and national express routes to London, for example. I think I've paid £10 to go to London before on the bus, which I thought was pretty impressive considering it's quite a long drive. So yeah, I think generally I've pretty much walked everywhere, but there are other options if that isn't what you want to do.
Thanks, Evie. Yeah, you're exactly right about the Next Bikes. So they're free for the first half an hour, and basically everywhere in Cardiff is within half an hour, so it works out being a free bike ride. Anything extra from that is something like 50p per half hour, so it's very, very cheap to get around. But as Phoebe said, most of our students do walk to lectures, to accommodation, to the city centre, because it is quite unique in that sense, and that everything is very compact and very central to the university and the city centre. Morgan, you mentioned during the talk about Job Shopper and getting some work. Would you recommend a student look into getting work, and if so, do they have the time to do that?
I would really recommend getting a job. So during my first year in university, because during my foundation year, I had like a full-time job at a retail shop outside of the university, which was like 20 hours a week. It was a lot, but I thought it taught me so much about how to manage my time, how to manage my money. It was a life experience that I feel like I wouldn't have gotten if I didn't work. And then in the last 2 years, I've been working a lot more sort of with the university, doing things like this student ambassador scheme and more one-off jobs. And you, kind of like Ollie said, you have as much time as you want. If you want to spend all of your time studying, you absolutely can do that. And, obviously you do have to study a lot while you're in uni. No one gets a degree easily. But there is definitely enough time to get some jobs, to do a bit of odd work here and there. And it's a way of making friends as well. Like, I know that sounds silly, but I've met some lifelong friends doing odd jobs for the university. I would absolutely recommend Job Shop, and it's free, which is amazing as well.
Yeah, definitely. Completely agree again with everything Morgan said. It is a good way to make a bit more money, meet new people, and develop new skills as well alongside university. Hannah, would you say that Cardiff is generally a safe place to live?
Yeah, I'd say it's safe to live in Cardiff. Every time I've sort of come home from like a night out or whatever, we'd stay in groups, and it's quite a nice sort of the walk to Senghennydd anyway was, I think the Talbot is the same, that it's all well lit and it's quite busy, so there's always people around. I think there's also like a bus service from the Student Union that makes sure that people get home safe, and there's like enough police around to make sure that everything is okay. Yeah, I'd say it's a pretty safe city.
Yeah, no, I completely agree again, Hannah. We've got everything Hannah mentioned from the bus scheme. We've also got a scheme where after a night out, maybe at the Students' Union, students don't actually have to pay for their taxi ride home. They can just show their student card and they'll get charged the day after. So they don't have to worry about not having any cash left or anything. The city has also been awarded the purple flag, which is a bit like the blue flag for beaches and the green flag for parks, which lists it as an entertaining, diverse, and ultimately very safe night out as well. So it's a really safe place to live. And we've also got, because the university's bang in the middle of the city centre, really, we've got 24-hour security and in the university accommodation as well. So it is a very safe place to live. Did anyone stay in an accommodation where they shared a bathroom by any chance? No. Okay, I'll answer this one. I didn't, but if someone's asking what it's like sharing bathrooms and shared accommodation, I wouldn't worry about it too much if you've got any concerns about it. It's meeting new people. It's all going to be very safe and clean and everything as well. You'll all have a communal kitchen area as well where you'll spend time in, but shared bathroom just not going to be like prison or anything. It's going to be great, to be fair. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. We've got a range of accommodation, most of which have ensuite bathrooms. So there's plenty of different options for everyone. We've got 16 different halls of residence altogether. So it's going to be plenty of options for everyone there. Ollie, not medicine related. What sort of accommodation do people stay in after they move out of halls? And how far are those houses from uni?
Nice. Yeah, so there's tons of kind of options that you can have. So what usually happens is that people will move into kind of like a university kind of owned accommodation in their first year. So for example, we've mentioned Talabont. That's kind of like the most common one for Cardiff. There's like 4 different accommodations in one kind of big site, has loads of different like university, like sports pitches and like a pub on site, like, and social centres, like there's tons. And then usually after that, they kind of move into kind of like more privately owned houses. So myself, I live in a house of 7. I've done so this is my 5th year now with the same people, and it's super, super easy. I think the nice thing I want to note about it is that with Cardiff as well, it's ridiculously cheap. I think for years and years, we've been, I would say, one of the most kind of cost-effective cities in the UK to live in as a student. So my house at the moment is £320 a month, not including bills. And kind of comparing that to friends across the bridge in Bristol and throughout the UK is such a good bargain. And obviously when you have to spend money on a house, you don't really have a choice. Knowing that it's cheap is really nice. And yeah, loads of different letting agencies that you can go to if you're a little bit worried or more kind of cautious. Cardiff University Student Union has a letting agency as well, so they can kind of talk you through it, and also they're happy to read through contracts as well before you sign for houses, just to make sure that everything is completely legitimate. But like I said, this is my 5th year now living outside of university accommodation. I've never had any problems.
Thanks. I've got quite a tough question, which unfortunately I'm going to throw your way, Phoebe. In your opinion, given obviously the pandemic, do you feel like the university has dealt with COVID well, and do you still feel it's worth the money?
Yes, I honestly do think they've dealt with it well. I think it's a really difficult time, and I think at the beginning no one really knew what was going on. But I found that the School of Biosciences, which I was in for my undergrad degree, the head of the school would email us sort of every other day, giving us updates. And although he didn't necessarily always have answers straight away, he did keep us updated on the thought process and the discussion like around what they were thinking about doing. And they asked for our opinions as well as to what we thought would work. For example, they did examinations in a 24-hour period to kind of allow for everyone in different time zones rather than just having an exam at a set time, and that was down to student feedback. So I think that aspect of it has been really good. And then this term, I moved to the School of Pharmacy, which is where my master's is, and they've been really good as well. We've had some in-person teaching sessions, and I think they've tried to keep it kind of at least once a week that they catch up with us and talk to us in quite small groups so that we get a good opportunity to provide feedback. But all of the online stuff as well has been a lot more interactive, and I think I've actually preferred learning in the way that I've been learning now than kind of missing lectures, never catching up, kind of rushing through content at the end of the year. I think having smaller chunks, it all kind of organised in a much sort of logical way, smaller chunks of learning to do with sort of more specific tasks at the end, and then more frequent workshops and tutorials has actually suited my way of learning a lot better.
Thanks, Phoebe. Yeah, really, really great information, and good to hear from someone who's gone through it at Cardiff University. Hannah, you mentioned earlier on about some societies. Are these sort of things done weekly, or can you pick and choose how often you attend these things?
Yeah, so they usually run weekly, but you can go as often as you want. So there's usually like a social every week. So for example, for the Welsh Society, there was one every Wednesday, and then there was like some bigger ones, like we'd go to watch the rugby in Dublin. Yeah, you can basically join in as much as you like. I think some of them do more frequently than once a week, but yeah, you just join as much as and as often as you'd like.
Thanks, Hannah. And I think we'd probably all recommend every student joins a number of societies, tries out different sports, and just throw yourself into things, because it's a way of meeting new people, developing new skills, and keeping yourself busy as well, which is always good at university. Phoebe, just going to throw one back to, I think this one's aimed at you, about, you mentioned playing netball for the bioscience department. Did you?
Yes, yeah,
Yes.
I did. Yeah.
Good. Sorry, I thought I got it wrong. Do all departments have sports teams?
I think pretty much every department that I've seen do. So then within that, you kind of play each other through departments rather than play different universities. So yeah, we played sort of the medics, who were always amazing. Yeah, all the other ones like geography, things like that. And it was a really good way of meeting people who you would never normally just bump into, but you kind of have the shared interest of that sport. And I think it's also worth saying you don't have to do the subject to be in the team, if that makes sense. So like my boyfriend does chemistry, but he's joined the bioscience rugby team because it's meant to be a bit more sociable. So you can kind of mix and match and join with friends if you want to.
Thanks, Phoebe. Just coming towards the end, we'll take a few more questions. Morgan, would you feel that you feel well supported during your time at university?
Absolutely. Very much so. During my foundation year, actually, I had a very, very difficult time outside of university. And the university, my personal tutor, the counselling they offer, all of that was absolutely phenomenal. It was a very difficult time for me, and I felt so supported and felt like I could just talk to absolutely anyone. And I felt like people would stop and really listen to what I was saying, which is a really nice feeling. And it's quite rare, really, to find a university where you feel like you could just talk to, at least in my department in engineering, I really felt like I could talk to any of the staff and they would be there to help if I needed it. So I'd say it's a very, very well, like they support you a lot in this university.
Thanks, Morgan. Hannah, sorry, I've basically appointed you our societies chief for tonight, so I'm going to ask you another societies question. Are they free to join societies?
So I think you can pay, so on the Student Union website, you can pay for a membership, but I don't think you have to. So like the socials on like for example, if they're going out, you don't have to pay anything, but if there was like a ball, if you had a membership, you'd have a discounted price, whereas if you didn't have the membership, so I think for our chemistry ball, I think the tickets were like £34 if you weren't a member, or £30 if you were, and I think the membership was about £10 for the whole year. So they're not, if you do have to pay, they're not expensive for the whole year.
No, good, perfect, thank you. Oliver, just as we come towards the end, another medicine one, and it's probably very useful at the current time. How would you recommend someone prepares for medicine interviews?
Yeah, so a few things. I think obviously if you've got a few friends or that are also applying, or teachers, obviously kind of buddy up with them and try and get some practice. The first thing I would say is know your personal statement well. Because I think the classic sentence they say is, if it's on your personal statement, then it's fair game. Because I think someone asked earlier if you had to if they're going to quiz you on academic stuff, they're not going to quiz you on anything that you're going to learn at university, because that's why you're going there, is to learn. But if you've mentioned a certain, illness on your personal statement, or you've mentioned a book or anything like that, make sure you've actually read it. I know it sounds really stupid and easy, but there have been a lot of cases of people putting a book on their personal statement, and as soon as they get asked about it, they crumble because they've read about 4 lines on Wikipedia. So know your personal statement well. Other than that, just kind of, I think usually on the websites for different universities, they will kind of look at the 4, they'll have like pillars or whatever it is of the main things that they're looking for. So for example, at Cardiff, they said, that you need to be quite well-rounded. So for example, I think there are a lot of questions that you can maybe expect to be asked. So how do you manage your time? You know, how do you relax? Things like that. You can kind of build up some set answers. So, you know, you can talk about how you're at A levels, but you also do these societies on the side, but you chill out with your friends when you get stressed, X, Y, Z. So I think the best way I would say to revise for these kind of interviews is to make some notes on the main things that you do and the main kind of achievements you have, and build them into answers. Don't memorize answers, because people can tell from a mile off if you're just reading from a screen in your head, but just kind of have some set things that you can go to that you can use for different questions when asked.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Ollie. I'm going to bring things to a close now, because we have just gone past 5:30. We managed to get through the vast majority of questions, so hopefully we haven't left anything unanswered. I would like to thank all the guys for joining us tonight. It's been, like I mentioned earlier on, it's been a really invaluable experience to be able to hear from current students, especially during the current climate where being a student may not seem as exciting as it has in the past. Hearing from Phoebe, it was clear to see that things aren't quite as gloomy as maybe the news and the media might like to say. So it's great to find out more about that. Hopefully this has been helpful. Hopefully this has given you a good insight into student life. What we're going to do after this is we're going to send an email out, and that will give you an email in case you want to ask any more questions. If you do want to ask any questions to any of the guys in particular, I will get in contact with them. I haven't told them this, so sorry about that, guys. But I will get in contact with them, and I'm sure they can give any more answers after as well. But thanks very much for listening. And enjoy the rest of your evening, and take care as well.